Websites these days are complicated, but they don't have to be. So today we're going to write a clean and functional website with just a little bit of HTML and CSS. It'll be perfect as a profile page or a small business page. On top of that, we're going to give it a bit of interactivity without an ounce of JavaScript. First thing we're going to do is open Adobe XD, where you can see I've got this nice design in there. You want to create a folder on your desktop and just call it website. Doesn't really matter what it's called. And we're going to use TextEdit to create a file that we'll name index.html. This is going to be our main file that we use as the website's homepage. And we use TextEdit again to create another file called main.css, and that's going to hold all of our styling for our website. You're going to pop over to my HTML template, which I will leave a link for in the description, and copy that, and that's going to save us a bit of writing of things that are boring and we don't need to really know about too much at this stage. And we're going to paste that in using TextEdit and save. You can actually do everything we're going to do today using TextEdit. There's no need for any more complicated software. I'm just demonstrating this at this point so that you can see just how simple it can be. And to prove that it's linked up, let's style our body tag. Just give it a background color of red. Check it in Chrome, and there you go, you can see it's turned red. So I'm going to close TextEdit at this point and open it in Visual Studio Code, just because it'll be easier for you guys to follow and easier for me to type. Right now I'm going to start overriding some of the default styles that are set to HTML elements that aren't really required. Scroll behavior smooth is going to be important later for our scroll to links, which you should worry about in the future. Going to give our background color just a slightly grey background, which will make it look a bit nicer, and set our font to Poppins with a fallback of sans serif, which you can see we've imported into the HTML template just there. Going to take away some of the default styles on the unordered list just to make it look a bit nicer, and going to change the color from the default blue of the anchor tag so that it matches the rest of our text. Take away the underline. You want to create a nice homogenized feeling across your site, so it's good to give H1s, H2s, H3s a bit of styling at this stage, just so that you don't find that they're different sizes every time that you come up to a different section. I want my H2s and H3s to be visually the same as well, so I'm just going to give them both the same font size and line height. Take away the margin because usually they're next to something with some margin. You can see there that the page has now accepted the new styles. The other thing we want in our website is some images, so we've got 3. Got an SVG, which is going to be our company logo, nice profile shot of myself, and a cool workstation. So we'll drag that into our website and we can see it in Visual Studio Code there. It's going to grab the SVG. You can literally paste SVGs into HTML, and it's as simple as that to get them in there, and give it a class of icon. The other thing we want in our nav is an unordered list, which is going to hold our links. So giving the wrapper nav links, and then each one nav link, and then the actual anchor itself, I'm going to call it nav anchor. And we'll set the href to blank for now because we're not going anywhere. Set the title to home and the value to home. There you go. We'll copy that one a couple times because we're going to have 3 links total. Let's call our second one about, and our third one contact. And at this point you want to remember to like and subscribe to the channel, helps a lot. And you can see on the page there we've got our content in the nav, even though it's unstyled. It looks aghast right now. We're going to set our main class to nav. You never want to target an element straight away with the element body name, so Always give it a class even if it's the same name as the body. We're wanting our page to be max width of 1000, but we want it to be in the middle, so we're using the margin 0 auto trick there. And setting our box size into border box so that the padding is incorporated inside the size of the box rather than extra. A lot of people new to styling fall upon the padding issue when they first try. And we want our nav links to be inline but have their children flexed, so we use inline flex. And our nav link to be centered vertically, so we align self to center, and no margin on top bottom but 5 on each side. Give it a nice font size and weight. And we want our anchor to be a block with a bit of padding around it so that the button is easy to click on, and a nice border radius to make it rounded off. Now we want a hover action, so we're going to put a transition on it, background color, and we want the text to also change color so you can still see it. And then we want to select the same element but with the hover selector on there, and change the background color on hover. And we also want to set the text color there. So test this out, you can see it's looking good, and the hover states are working, and there's the SVG. On our design we've got one of the anchors coloured in black all the time, so just going to give this class a modifier called active, even though it's not technically active but it just suits the name. And we're going to change the colours of the background and the text on there, grab that and stick that on our first anchor. You can see now we're beginning to look like the design a little bit. We've got the nav basically looking exactly like the design. Next section is our main section, so like I was saying before, give it a class of main instead of targeting main. And we're going to create a div which we're going to reuse a few times here called section. We want all our content to be max width 1000 and centered, so we're using the margin trick there again. And you set your width to 100% and your max width to 1000 pixels so that it's on smaller devices it always stays full width. The section, we want a bit of space at the top, so we're setting 120 pixels margin at the top. And this section is going to be our profile section, a little bit of information about myself with an image. So source, set it to the profile pic, give it a relevant alt tag, and we set the height and width to the intrinsic height of the images. We can use a class to manipulate the size of the image. It doesn't necessarily matter what you set those values to be. The other thing in this bit is a bit of text about myself. Hi there. That's the main title of the page. Probably not the best for SEO. And we're using a bit of blurb about Britney Spears instead of Laura Mipson, just because it's a bit more fun. Target our profile section. We want it all to be on one line, so we're giving it display flex. And then we're going to give our intro a bit of margin. Nothing on the top, nothing on the right, nothing on the bottom, but 30 pixels on the left. And padding all around. We want that box sizing to behave itself. And we want our pic not to get too big. We want it half the width of the section, and we want that height to sort itself out. Max width 300 pixels, that's going to come in handy later. There you go, the section's looking good. On to the next section. So you can see we're reusing the same class, so we thought ahead with that. And our next title is about, and we grab a bit more Britney Spears chat, put that in the paragraph, and we're going for our cool workstation image. You'll notice that Visual Studio Code autofills quite a lot of values for me, which is really handy, saves me a lot of typing. And the only thing we need to style in this bit is the picture itself. So giving that a width of 100 because we want it all across the page. And there she is. The page is coming together now. Third section, our contact section. So there's quite a lot of boxes nested in this one because we've got that border. So we're going to create a box inside the section, and then another box which is going to hold our headline. Want to get in touch, but we want it to break onto a second line, so we're putting that BR in there. And then under there, another bit of text just to offset the title and also give more information, I guess. The reason we've done it like this with the headline inside the box is because we're going to flex, and we want only two of the items to be on the same level. And that is this unordered list, which is going to hold our contact methods. So we've got like email, telephone, and then probably a link or whatever you want. Maybe live chat on your real website. Want that on another line. And we're using strong here to bold, but actually it's not the correct usage of strong. Strong should just emphasize some text. And there's our contact section. The content is coming together, but it's not looking how the design looks just yet. And we'll change this to be our telephone contact. If you urgently need to hear my voice, call me. Telephono. And I'm going to use a real phone number here. No, I'm not. And to visit my LinkedIn, we'll just put a link in. We don't want to just tell them the web address, do we? We want just to give them a link so it's easy for them. Don't remember my own LinkedIn profile here, so we'll just link to LinkedIn in general. Looking good. There's the link. Contact, let's start styling up our box. We want that border, we want everything to be flexed nicely so that it's in line. Space evenly. Space evenly, space between is a really useful one when you're doing navs. Let's make our border 2 pixels wide and give it the same border radius as everywhere else. You don't want to start using different border radiuses on different elements. Your design will look janky. And we're grabbing the headline here, and we're going to give this an intrinsic width of 50%. Flex basis just makes it try to be that width. Could also use width, probably do the same. And there we go. Section's looking nice. We forgot to use target about blank, which you really need to use on that bit, because when they click the link, you don't want them to navigate away from the site. You want them to open a new tab. And that's it for that section. Just head down to the footer now. Give it a class of footer. And we're not going to put too much in the footer of this website, even though you could. We're just going to write probably our name and the year. You might want to use a bit of JavaScript to get the current year so that you don't have to keep coming and updating this. You can see it at the side there. I'm just going to center it using the margin auto trick. Sorry, not the margin auto trick. We're going to use it text align center because we are going to put the items in line so they behave like text. but we want their children to flex, so you can use inline flex. Zero on the top and bottom, but margin on the sides. You can see they're not lined up there. That's because we forgot to add the class list to the parent, and there, they're looking good. So the desktop version of the site is getting there, but if we scroll down or scale down the site, you can see the mobile view is knackered. So we're going to select that specific width with the media query. These days, mobile first is a big buzzword in web development, but if you've got a design that's more complicated on desktop, it's often easier to build the desktop one and then scale it down to a simpler mobile view. But I would preach thinking about it ahead of time, if not building it like that. You can see our pick is looking good, but our section is still flexing, so we're going to set that to block so that all the elements can stack instead of sit side by side. There we are. Still got too much margin going on the text, so we're going to take that away on the sides and the bottom, and the padding on the sides. There we are. So the contact bit is still pretty badly broken. We just need to take away the flex. Again, it's just a block so that it stacks. And there we are. Nothing else really to do on that. The desktop is looking good. We haven't actually done our links yet though, our scroll to links. So we're going to stick an ID in there. So use the hash to sort of tell the page that it's an ID. And then you go to a div on the page and give it that ID. So this one would have been about. And then the final one, contact. You can literally put these IDs anywhere on the page. Only use them once. Save, and when you hit the button, it's going to scroll to. And that's working using that scroll behavior smooth that we set before, all without JavaScript. And that is probably the best website you've ever seen. And look at it in desktop in its magnificence, and it scales down perfectly. Oh yeah, that's nice. Like and subscribe, babies. Websites these days are complicated.